Marco, can you say a bit about to what extent you think the way consumers are interacting with and consuming content, how that is changing? Mm-hmm. And we've talked about that a lot at this show. Are we exaggerating it a bit, or are we not talking about it enough?
Well, that's a multi-headed question. Let me first say that I think one of the things that is clear by now, by all the research we're seeing, is that time-shifted and place-shifted viewing is definitely there. We see percentages of between 20 to 40% of total viewing now shifting towards time and place-shifted viewing. So there's definitely on the consumer side something going on. However, I think if you look at the pace of change, whether it's exaggerated or underestimated, I think it's a quantum world. There are multiple realities out there. So I think on the one hand, I think the technology side of the business tends to exaggerate the pace of change. I think the devices and the capabilities we're currently talking about have been around for quite a few years, but consumer adoption has not been there. So I think in terms of technology-driven change, we're definitely exaggerating. On the other end, we're underestimating, and that's the other side of the business, that the consumer currently is changing. And I think that's the biggest change compared to a few years ago, is that the consumer definitely is changing. I think the reach, and there's multiple research around that, the reach of traditional television is definitely decreasing. Hence, as an impact of that, I think the value for us to advertisers is definitely something we need to reconsider. So
what do you think that channel operators like Viacom should do to deepen their relationship with cable operators?
Well, I think we're already doing a lot. I think if you look at the past, especially the last 12 months, but probably somewhat longer, I think we're trading already an extended set of rights with our cable operators. We're far away from the time where we only traded our linear TV rights for our advertising windows with them. I think we're trading on-demand rights. We are definitely enabling multi-screen viewing in the propositions of operators. So I think on that side we are proactively working together, because in the end of the day we have one goal, and that's entertaining the consumer. But there's definitely areas in which we need to cooperate further.
And from where you're standing, do you think that cable operators and other distribution platforms, do you think they're doing enough to meet this challenge of different consumption patterns?
I think you can never do enough. I think on the positive side, I think we see a lot of change. We see the full embracing of multi-screen viewing by all industry players. However, sometimes within that embracing, we are not creating full visibilities of some barriers to change which are realistic, which are real and which are out there. And I referred to them also briefly in my panel, and it has to do with the fact that our copyright framework at this moment in time is certainly not helping a very proactive rollout of multi-screen video. On the other side, you see that the non-measurement or the audience measurement on alternative screens beyond traditional television is not yet there. And I think with those two factors still being a barrier to change rather than an enabler of change, there's still a lot to do. We need to do as an industry. And not being a cable guy, what I kind of sense in this audience here is that there is an understanding that as long as we provide a connection to the consumer, the content industry has to deal with everything else. Which is kind of, in my opinion, downplaying the role that also cable operators and the whole industry in total plays in solving the copyright or intellectual property side of the equation and the audience measurement part.
So does that suggest that in the near future we won't see Viacom doing deals with pure over-the-top players, missing out the middleman, and maybe even going direct to the consumer itself? No. I think you see us in the US very clearly do deals with the Netflix and Hulus of this world, and you will certainly see that in the UK we're doing business with them, and we certainly will do business with them once they come to continental Europe. On a local side, we're already dealing with the likes of Maxdome and Zattoo. So it's not an either or. We can work with both. I think OTT in the end of the day is just a content proposition that the consumer in the end wants, and we will provide it to them, and it's not in conflict or in competition with what operators has to offer. And our content, I think, through a smart windowing strategy, we can make sure that we reach the consumer there where he wants to see us. And so I think we play a role there, and I think we definitely are cooperating more with cable
to get this going.
Marco, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.